What is he doing? Is that a doggy bed? I think he's moving a doggy bed and a printer. He's putting some paper away. Got a great shirt on. I don't know much, but I know I like that shirt. Like this setup. He's doing good. Yep. Check it out back there. Make sure you get everything. Get those dust bunnies. Stash those drugs. Can't have any evidence. Xbox light. Yep. I think it's a light. Maybe it's a nipple tassel. Must have incredibly large nipples. Get it. Come on. You got this. Yep. Put it back there. Never going to be visible on. Yep.
We're done. Gotta give him something.
Megadads Live is a mature-rated podcast. It's for the Megadads, the Mega Moms, but not the Mega Kids. So put on those earmuffs and let's go!
So fucking pumped.
Why?
You ever just do Megadads Live? You ever just
For the
start
last 10
recording
years.
a podcast? You ever just get in there though? You ever just, with a fresh perspective?
You gotta knead it. You gotta put your fingers into it. Mush it.
I've been saying like, I got this new energy. I feel great. Everything's awesome. And then just something just goes horribly wrong.
Literally every time.
Right?
Every single time you try to be positive, either in the Discord or a text or whatever, the next day it's like, oh yeah, my leg got chopped off.
Megadad's legs chopped from under them. It's so fucked up.
You're really gonna try to project this kind of positivity all day long?
Should I go the other way?
See
No,
what
let's
happens.
do it.
Let's see what
This
happens.
time it's gonna stick. This time the positivity is gonna stick. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for Megadads. I'm pumped for our listeners. I'm pumped for the future, even though it's it's not looking so hot. But we got it.
We got it.
Yes.
So
All right.
Well, let's just start there.
Megadad's being super positive.
Since you're already in this mode, let's put this at the very, very front, right? Our super positives. What are we bringing? What are we bringing to the people that's bringing us life, joy, energy? What's got you so happy this morning?
I can't remember if I shared this before, but I got this funny story and I had gotten fired, right?
Yeah.
And I had a little... it was effective as of my birthday, and my wife's like, go to see your buddy who lives in Washington State. So I went, and my super positive is that nature still exists. Like over here in the Midwest, everything's super flat, concrete, jungles. But I went to the Pacific Northwest. I visited Olympia, Washington, Seattle, and like the forests around there.
Yeah.
They just have random waterfalls. Just like their parks are like forests and stuff. It's insane. The amount of oxygen that entered my system just by being outside was fantastic. So I'm out there and we're walking through, and then I start taking photos because we left the car and we started getting into where there were trees. And they're like, this is the parking lot. Stop taking photos. Like, it was like a college campus. It was like in between their buildings is just forest. That's just what they have. Yeah. So they're like, that's all we're doing is just going on this path behind the college. So I was like, stop doing that. So I was like, all right. I look down and there's this rock that's painted like neon, like blue or whatever. And I'm like, what's going on? What is that? And they're like, oh, it's, they keep it weird out here and everything is just weird. So I'm like, all right. And then I see like this guy in this, those green screen like outfits, like just running through the forest, like full speed. Yeah, full body suits. But it was like some very odd neon color I can't describe right now. And he's just sprinting. And I'm like, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, keep it weird. So we go one step further. Like 1 minute into the forest, there's a tree that has... I don't know if how much of this was man-made, but you saw like a tree with a face on it made out of mushrooms with a little like bowl made out of ceramic, like something was in it that looked like blood. I don't know. And it was like a little like altar to like the forest, and these people are like odd, and like they just walk past it. I'm over here like, should we call the police? And they're like, no, this is just more of the weird stuff. I was like, okay, so nature still exists, weird people still exist. If you can, go to a national forest, touch some grass, as Adam Leonard would say.
Weird people definitely do still exist in 2024. That's for sure. When I was out in Seattle for PAX last year, we left, and I mean, well, even before we left, I just turned to my wife. I'm like, if there was ever a place that was for me, it's that area, right? I just love everything about it. I love the weather, I love the environment, I love the architecture in the city, I love the people, I love the weirdness, like you were saying. It's just all like everywhere you go is so unique and different. And we would strike up conversations with locals and talk about how fascinating their area was, and like they don't know, like it's just that's home to them, right? But we'd be like, man, where we come from is so fucking boring. You have no idea. Like everything here in Seattle is unique and cool. And God, I mean, it's a ridiculous cost of living out there. But if I had
we were waiting for our table at this one restaurant. I'm talking to my buddy about PlayStation, as one does. He starts talking with us too. He starts talking about, Diablo, and like if he should get the next iteration of the console. Like old guy, like just 40, like really old.
cool
You know what I mean?
out there.
Yeah,
Cool.
and he was just like so down, and yeah, I loved it. So that's my super positive. We still have some areas in the U.S. that aren't total hellscape.
I would say mine's kind of tied to yours. My super positive has been the weather here lately. It's friggin' February in Minnesota, and we just had a stretch of mid 50s, which is insane.
Summer,
like absolutely insane. Normal temperatures in this area at this time of the year, like it's like 15 degrees. And I've been taking the kids for walks after work. We've been going skateboarding, no jackets. It's just, we're all going to die. Like this is a sign that the world is ending, but I'm enjoying it while it lasts, and being able to open the windows in February. Like I shouldn't be able to do this for another 4 months. So I don't know.
The first hit of spring, like when you're in the Midwest, and you get that like, life. Fresh air, and that like the feeling of warmth to come is like intoxicating. Nothing beats that high.
And
coming out of hibernation,
and to get it this early. And I don't know what it's been like in Chicago for you, but we've barely had any sub-zero temperatures, barely any snow at all. So it's kind of weird, because usually we're locked down for like half the year in Arctic tundra. And then, like you said, springtime comes and it's a refreshing experience. But it's just kind of stayed that almost for us year round. And I don't know.
We had one mega snow. It was like 12 inches. They said it was going to be like 14, 18 inches. And now it was it. So, yep.
All right. Well, we're happy. We're positive. We're here.
We're trying.
And I think it's time for a quick question. And let me I'm using the soundboard again because we're recording a little bit differently today. So I'm gonna see if I can pull up a good soundbite for the quick question.
I'm gonna come.
Oh. All right. Let's hear it, Antonio. Hit me.
All right. So the thing that came to mind recently was a melding of two amazing things. We'll talk about it later, but one of the games that we're going to talk about soon on this episode or next is Pal World. All right. I actually played it. And it's a melding of two things, right? Two genres, two very popular things. And then it's perfect. So I wanted to talk to you about your chocolate and peanut butter, but your personal chocolate and peanut butter. Is there something in the snack realm, or even just outside of the snack food world, where you just have a combination that you just love together, where it's like, I eat this salty and this sweet, or I eat this odd thing that my wife just wants to destroy me over because I'm so weird, but I can't stop combining these two things together? What's your what's your personal chocolate peanut butter?
Yeah.
It could just be like, peyote in the forest, that goes together.
Well, first of all, I'm like a very, very boring person when it comes to food
I know.
consumption. I think we've talked
I
about
thought
this.
you were going to stop there.
Son of a bitch. And I don't know that I have like a go-to for that. I will say that there are certain food combinations that I like repel from that are not abnormal. So like 2 ingredients that I like separate, but once you put them together, like
oh yeah, you can't have it.
Like peanut butter and jelly. People love peanut butter and jelly. I like peanut butter sandwiches. I like jelly sandwiches. But once you put those 2 things together, to me, it's like absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
My dad used to eat rice in milk with brown sugar on top.
Oh God.
And that to me sounds like something I would vomit from. But that was his. But I will say I had something in Seattle when we were there, and it was maple bacon donuts.
Yes.
Have you had those?
Yes. Yeah, I did have a bite, and I was like, this isn't gonna work.
Right.
This shouldn't work.
Should not work. But it's absolutely amazing. And ever since we had it, we watch Food Network every once in a while, and we watch like the kids baking championship shows, and they're constantly putting bacon on baked items. And it was something that I never had heard of before, and certainly not anything I ever would have thought that I liked. But a maple bacon donut is just like, you put bacon on a pastry, and it is frickin' outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. There's certain people who like, I repel from the people who put ketchup on everything. These people that's like ketchup on ice cream, ketchup on like waffles,
cereal,
and stuff like that. Like, I don't understand it. My go-to's probably boring and a little unique because have you had Funyuns? Do you know what Funyuns are?
I think I've had Funyuns, but it's been like 30 years.
I think they take basically an onion round cut and then they just fry it up. Yeah. And it ends up coming out like a chicharron. It's like basically like a very fried, puffy version, and they sell it like chips.
And it makes your breath fantastic, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Like, you put Funyuns with everything, like just crunch it up just slightly, put it in another bag of something, preferably like a spicy blend of some chips, some munchies like Flamin' Hots. And that is fire. And I can't get enough of it. In the Pacific Northwest, when I visited, I was like, snack time, grabbed the Funyuns, grabbed a bunch of bags of different stuff, just like shook it up, brought it all together. I'm a big fan. So Funyuns, everybody. That's my pro tip.
Have you ever made a cocktail? Like,
oh, yeah, of course.
Like, not just like a basic ass cocktail, like a mix system, but like, have you ever designed one?
I have not designed a cocktail. I've had them where like you go to a restaurant, it's like, oh, and then we put a little, drop of acid in there or whatever, and you taste great.
I feel like with it being our 10-year anniversary, we should make a Mega Dad's cocktail.
Wow.
Don't you think?
Yes.
I think we should do that. I think we should put some. We'll test. You do a little testing on your end. I'll do a little testing on my end. We'll make a video. Mega Dad's at the bar. We'll make a Mega Dad's 10 cocktail. Stay tuned for that. I think that would be outstanding.
It has to have 10 ingredients, right?
It's got to have just like a shit ton of stuff. and it's somehow got
one whole egg.
It's somehow got to have like it's got to have like those Mega Dad's colors, right? My son is always talking to me about the Mega Dad's colors, how we got like the blue and the pink and the little translucent pass through between the two of them. So anytime he sees like really cool neon lights, he's like, Dad, it's the Mega Dad colors. So we'll have to work that in there. Have to be a blue drink somehow, but
man, we're almost there. We're on the cusp of this awesome drink.
All right, it is time now for nut or no nut.
I'm gonna come.
I'm just gonna keep using that one because that seems appropriate. All right, Antonio, what do we got?
So we're talking about new announcements or things that are on the radar that are supposedly rocking the world, gaining fast track attention, And we're going to be talking about Sony's State of Play in a bit. And when we picked out our highlights to talk about, I noticed that a big game was not on either of our lists. So this nut or no nut is Death Stranding 2. Just, is it doing it for you? When I see Hideo Kojima unveiling things, talking about, I'm going to make this movie game experience, I'm going to make this sequel, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I see it. I recognize the Death Stranding 2, the new look at it showed off a lot of cool, weird stuff.
I was surprised at how much it showed.
Oh, it was a lot. There was this big baddie, right, with guitar, and he looked like he was out of the 80s, a music video, and this whole it's an excellent performance. You see this big bad main
Troy
evil,
Baker.
Yeah, and he's emoting beautifully. You could tell he's going to be a fully realized character. There's all these hints about what the video is showing and what the actual game mechanics could be this time around. So there's all this nuggets of information and intrigue and what's to come. And you know what, Adam? I don't give a fuck. I don't care. At this point, because here's what I know. For me, it's a no nut, because I know even if I do go down and finish Death Stranding 1, appreciate everything that's happening, there's no payoff. There's never oh, that's what's going on here. It's just more weird shit for weird shit's sake. So I love Lost, the TV show.
Yeah.
But that's why some people didn't like Lost. They're like, you keep telling me yeah, I'm intrigued. I don't know what the fuck's happening. It's kind of cool, but where's the payoff? Where's the explanation? What do you think? Nut or no nut for Death Stranding 2, Adam? It wasn't on your list.
Well, let's hold on. Let's back up a little bit. I want to explore what you are saying a little bit, because we've discussed before how you are a person who wants that payoff. You want that
wouldn't
cap at the end, right? And I've talked often about how a lot of times the journey is the point for me in games, and Death Stranding is the epitome of, I think, the differences between you and I. Whereas Death Stranding, like you said, is fucking weird. It never explains itself. There are resolutions to character arcs and things like that, but there's no oh, that's what that floating whale means and all those. No, you're never gonna get that. But to me, some of the greatness of Death Stranding were just those moments. And actually, we're having a conversation right now in the Discord about this. Tony's playing this game, and I just loved the feeling of, okay, I've got my gear, I've got all of my tools, and I've got to get up this mountain. And it's like a real mountain. You traverse it like you would in real life. It's not a video game where it's here's a handhold, I push X and then I can climb it. No, you have to tie off your ropes. You have to find good footing. You have to avoid slopes and storms and things like that, and actually get there. And to me, there was so much exhilaration in that travel moment of, how am I logistically going to get this done without losing my payload, without falling to the bottom and all that stuff. And I found that very surprisingly calming for a game that's so weird and creepy and has so much off the wall stuff. That game also had so many huge pockets of calm for me, where it's just you and the world, and how are you going to overcome it. I loved Death Stranding, but it is really fucking weird. And with the nature of a trailer for Death Stranding 2, all you're getting is the weird. You get a little bit of insight into the new levels and what that might mean, but this was just a showcase of weird. And I nutted all over this trailer. It is.
You're in.
It got me. And I'm like you, where there were two aspects of this Kojima section in the State of Play. One of which was Death Stranding 2, and the other which was him saying, "Hey, I'm gonna make another game at some point, and it's gonna be a movie, and blah 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 blah. Here I am on a soundstage. Look forward to that in 7 years."
Wasn't it a stealth action / movie? Something? Or was that not the same announcement? I don't know. This guy's off the wall.
He's basically gonna make a new Metal Gear. Is what he's saying. But that And also the what's the one he's making for Xbox? The horror one with Jordan Peele?
It's some weird one word
Overdose
thing.
or something like, I don't know. Whatever that is.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
I have no doubt those will be fantastic games, but that kind of announcement where you're literally just saying, I'm going to make, what is it?
OD.
OD, yeah.
It's just OD. Horror game developed by Kojima Productions, published by Xbox Game Studios. This guy's everywhere. He's got to slow down.
And I have no doubt that that's going to be really cool. But that kind of announcement does nothing for me because it's just a dude standing there saying, I'm going to make this game eventually. You can't see it yet. I can't tell you what it's about yet, but I'm, whatever. This trailer for Death Stranding 2 was like a lot. Like this game is very far along. You got fucking robot samurais with babies inside. You got the girl from the James Bond movies, and she's got like a scarf that has hands that covers up and like holds your cigarette for. Just all kinds of weird. And some of it hits, some of it doesn't. Kojima is very much a dude who's up his own butt. We all know that.
There's a marionette puppet like doing.
That was my favorite part. It was like the weird animated on the twos kind of Spider-Verse looking marionette puppet that you hang on your belt. It's kind of like Mimir from God of War. You're just going to hook him on your belt and he's going to talk to you probably the whole time. And, you just kind of have to either be about it or not. Like you can't go halfway with Death Stranding. It's either gonna wash over you and you're gonna take what's coming, or you're like, this is fucking too weird and stupid and I can't get on board. Given that Death Stranding 1 was my game of the year, I'm all in on Death Stranding 2. But yeah,
you brought me around. You brought me around on the idea of, you're right. There's like all the extra stuff, the story, the visuals, but at the core, he really, in my opinion, didn't let us down in the gameplay department because it was kind of compelling. Like you were saying, Tony the Coconut Wizard was saying it's a fetch quest addict's nightmare. And that was the first game about traversal. You can see there, you can go there. You have to plan though, and managing resources and that sense of accomplishment when you reach the top or reach the farthest horizon. And it delivered. It's not like you can't tell us that there was nothing there.
Yeah,
it was there.
I'm very curious.
This strand concept and all that, the online aspects. I mean, it delivered. You're right. It was a game. That's for all him saying it wasn't.
That's what I'm really interested in with this. Is like, is he gonna expand on that? It sounds so stupid. Even saying it sounds stupid all these years later. The strand game concept, because it was really cool. The fact that you were sort of in the same world with other players, and hey, there's a bridge that wasn't there before. Here's a ladder that somebody left behind that I can use. Very interesting, complementary gameplay. Yeah. I'm curious how that carries into the new one, but yeah, I'm excited. That freaking electric guitar battle with the baby samurai robot thing. I'm a guy who can just like sit back and enjoy shit. And that whole thing, I'm like, I don't understand anything that's happening, but it's a dude with an electric guitar, laser weapon, fighting a giant samurai robot with a baby inside. I don't know. I got a kick out of it.
That does it for you, huh? I'm going to hold my nuts. I'm reserved. I'm holding my nut for right now.
All right. Fair enough. Well, since we're talking about the state of play, let's just get right into it with our headlines. State of play. We got 2 of them within a 2-week period. We're gonna chunk these out. We're gonna go with the main showcase first. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll move on to the Final Fantasy one. This was a 42-minute state of play from Sony, following on the heels of the Xbox Developer Showcase. We talked about this on a previous episode of Megadad's Live. Very different approaches, like 2 completely different kind of approaches. I'm curious what your thoughts are about where they are with this format and how you feel it compares with like Nintendo Directs and the Xbox Developer Showcase.
We talked about this on one of our most recent episodes about how we miss E3 and that if they're going to do these presentations, it'd be nice to have a good format. Who's going to find the one that works? This state of play had the most pitch perfect pacing I had seen in a very long time. I thought Xbox had some good ones, but this is it for me. It was just enough of a look at each game, mostly trailers. When they came out in the beginning and started talking, or at any point someone started speaking in between, it was short and sweet.
Yeah.
And it was enough where it's like, okay, if I'm interested, I'm going to go read the blog or I'm going to go watch a second follow up video. And they didn't overstay their welcome at all. And I have to say that it has been my favorite presentation format for me. I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, I talked last time after the Xbox showcase about how their format, like, it was too much exposition, right? Like I needed that sizzle. And to me, this felt like an E3 showcase where Herman Hulse came out at the beginning, like a guy would come out on stage, say, hey, thanks for being here. We're excited to show you what we've got. And then they just stepped away and it was trailer, gameplay. And like you said, there was a couple moments where people would come out and talk about it a little bit. But for the most part, it was just like, it was that punch that I was missing from the Xbox showcase. And some of the games hit, some of them didn't. But like you said, nothing really overstayed its welcome. And it was 40 minutes of just back to back look at games. And yeah, I loved it. I'm glad that they stopped trying to emulate the Nintendo Direct. Like there was a time when they started this State of Play where they did the exact same format. You could see the little tile shifting on the screen. This is the game we're about to talk about. And then it would, you would see what's coming next. And they had like the voiceover between each game. And it was like, you are literally just cloning the Nintendo Direct format. I'm glad that they settled with this, where it's just like, we're going to let the games talk. And I really liked it. I thought it was great. So with that said, let's talk about our 3 favorite games each that we saw at the State of Play. You want to go first?
Sure. Recently we were talking on Threads about like top games of all time, and I was so glad that I had remembered to put BioShock in there because it was just, from a gameplay, atmosphere, story, it hit it out of the park for me as an experience, and it'll go toe to toe with my other favorites of all time. And what we saw was Judas. So this is a new game from Ghost Story Games. So we got a brainchild, a spiritual successor, whatever you want to call it, to the BioShock franchise. And I love the way that it looked. I thought that it was, Ken Levine, creator of BioShock, he is back with a vengeance and has a lot to prove. So I think it's going to be a challenge to meet those highs again. There was a game that came out recently called Atomic Heart that was, again, in the vein of BioShock, where you're in this alternate history world with bombastic enemies and fights with guns, but also like powers like fire and freeze and ice and stuff like that. And it was just, it didn't hit the highs that I was hoping for. So I'm hoping that Judas, this story trailer that we had saw and everything, is looking like it could be an amazing game, and I'm really hoping that it is.
Was this announced or revealed in any way before?
It was. The name Judas had come out. I don't believe that an extended look at any gameplay or visuals had come out before this, but this was a pretty decent look at kind of what they're going for from a visual perspective, and first-person shooter, tight first-person action, and a little hint at the world and kind of the aesthetics they're going for. It looks great. It looks like BioShock hyped up, like to the max with modern visuals and technology, and it's looking good to me. Did you like what you saw so far?
I did, and I'm kind of like a mixed bag on BioShock. Like, I enjoyed the original BioShock, but I loved BioShock Infinite. Like, I loved that game. I don't know what it was. I don't know.
Some people like that game.
I don't know if the original BioShock was just too grim for me. Like, that was a very dark game, right? And BioShock Infinite was also dark, but I think the character interaction in that game helped propel it forward for me.
Yeah.
I didn't not like BioShock, but I wasn't in love with it as much as I was with Infinite. And obviously they're not shy about like, hey, this is the next BioShock. It might not have the name, but like, wink, wink, you know what this is. So I thought it looked great. I agree.
I didn't see this explanation later, but this is like a synopsis of the plot, what to expect. Judas takes place on the Mayflower, a city traveling through space. Computers control the entire society, including grooming human residents to be model citizens, and they report back on those that deviate from expected behavior. The game's main character is named Judas and has been able to break free of that direction, and her actions lead to revolution aboard the Mayflower. It's a good setup. I don't know if they'll have the story moments because BioShock was so much about the unexpected, and BioShock 2 was like an iteration, but I don't know if you could really hit the heights of like the it wasn't even the end actually, but the big twist.
Right.
So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it though. It looks great visually and it's got a good pedigree. So we'll see. I was hyped to see it.
I agree. I was right there with you. My major hype moment from this showcase was the little Silent Hill section. We got a gameplay trailer from Silent Hill 2, which I'm going to be fair. This Silent Hill 2 is my most anticipated game right now, other than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The combat is not the best part of any Silent Hill game. So the fact that this was a combat-focused trailer was a little strange to me. Like this isn't what I want to see with a new look at Silent Hill, but it did give you a lot of extensive look at like the environments and the character models and the enemies and things like that. So it gave you more of a look at the world, but I found it an interesting choice to focus so particularly on the combat because I love Silent Hill, but the combat in Silent Hill is pretty bland. What did you think about that choice?
I like the enemies of Silent Hill, and I think that you can only show so much smoke or fog. Yeah. And I think that is their main hurdle, right? You're trying to sell a game whose bread and butter was atmosphere.
Right.
And you can only do that so much with environmental storytelling and all that. How do you trailerize that?
Yeah.
I don't understand the pushback against the combat because when I play these games, that's what I enjoy in the moment to moment. It's all there is to kind of enjoy besides the, let's go into this next dark, creepy area. So I love seeing the enemies and I love seeing kind of like, I'll see more. I don't want them to give away, the whole script, but I thought it was interesting. I'm excited for fans. I don't see how you can really mess it up. I think with all these types of games, you need to stay true. That's the step one. Stay true to capture the same, magic in a bottle if you can, but then you refresh, for the modern age and make it, use the technology that you have. So I think there was some backlash a little bit about this and I didn't see it. I was like, what are you upset? I thought this is what you wanted. It didn't look like it deviated crazy. I don't understand. I thought it looked like what Silent Hill fans would want.
Yeah, there is a very strange air around this game. There are a lot of people online, and I don't hang around in online groups, so I don't really understand it. But there's a big push against Bloober Team as a developer. Like, there's a lot of hate for that developer, which is weird because I love their games. And then
They're fantastic. Everyone knows that.
And I thought so. And then there's, I think, a natural kind of off-putting sense of Konami. Konami left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and they have a lot to prove coming back. So there's a weird combination of those two things that's creating this negative online messaging around Silent Hill 2. But damn, I'm so excited for it. The other Silent Hill portion of this was a shadow drop of a free on PlayStation experience called Silent Hill Short Message, which I will be talking about later in the press start segment. They showed off this game, which looked really cool and really scary, and then they said, download it right now for free. And
I love that. Available now. I love it.
Available now. Yeah, it really called to mind the old Gamescom press conference where Konami shadow dropped PT, and it was just download it for free right now. And that's a good feeling because there's a lot of good feelings around what PT was. So this really called to mind that, and it was a great way to put Silent Hill on the forefront of people's minds.
Yep.
What do you got next?
I won't stop talking about Dragon's Dogma 2. I was trying to talk about this in a recent episode, and I have to bring it up again. What they showed looks incredible. When I'm watching what's happening with the combat and enemy design and the way that the world looks and how everything's just interacting with each other in such a tangible way, you just have the spells hitting and the weapons hitting, you crawling up enemies. I'm impressed, and it's hard these days to find games that I'm like, wow, how did they do that? Or wow, this looks fun. And these type of ideas, these reactions don't come easily to me these days anymore. So I thought it looked fantastic. It was kind of getting into the new classes, which it's a big part of if you played the first game. Picking your class kind of defines a lot of what you can do and what your allies can do and what you're going to be seeing in front of you. So what type of spells and actions, and just them talking about that, like, oh, fantasy and action and picking your class, like just getting into that at all is super exciting to me. And I am so glad that this is getting the attention it deserves. It had a really decently long trailer, and I was hoping that I would hear more about people being on board with it. It looks, there's under it all is like a little bit of jank, a little bit still. I don't know if it's the frame rates or what's going on with it, but it's definitely has the spirit of the first game in it. You could see it completely at the first glance that this is going to be more an advanced version of what we got before, and I think that that's the right recipe. Did you like what you saw? Are you on board yet? And on top of everything, I have to say, out March 22nd. It's out in just a little over a month.
A lot of these games surprised me with their release dates. Yeah, this looked really cool. I loved the large enemies. Like, it had kind of like a Monster Hunter feel, and that's another property that I've never been able to get into because there are some games as a 42-year-old man who has limited time that you look at and you're like, man, I wish I could get into that. Monster Hunter's always been one of those things. I know I do not have the capacity in my life for a game like that. But this looked like it had a little bit of that, right? Which I find appealing, but in like a tighter RPG experience, which is easier for me to absorb. So I was really impressed with the variety of the characters that you can sculpt, like the builds that you can have, and then those massive enemies. The visuals looked really good. So this is not a franchise up until you talked about it on the last episode that I really paid any attention to at all. But after pulling video for that episode that we had and then watching this, I was like, okay, I can see why you're excited about this. It looks pretty damn cool.
Yes, it's gonna be good. Trust Hypecaster on this one. Get on board. I expect this to review well and sell well. I think Capcom's been on a roll, and that this is something that's long overdue to bring back into their repertoire. So it's going to be great.
Is Capcom, you said, right?
Capcom.
Man, they just...
Yep.
What is the formula at Capcom these days, right? Like,
I don't know. They hired the right person at the top somewhere, and they're just like started trickling down. I guarantee you there's some talent over there. Yes. Yes.
Speaking of a studio that I really like, that does some really good things, there was I was unsure of what the hell this game was when they announced it. And then I did a little bit of research afterwards, and Zenless Zone Zero comes from HoYoverse, who makes Genshin Impact. And
Wait, what?
What is the other one they make that V was talking about? The space one.
The turn Honkai Star
Rail, right. So Zenless Zone Zero comes out in this state of play, and I'm watching this trailer, and I'm like, this just looks like straight up anime. Action, fluid animation, like just insane animation where the characters are speeding and bending and light attacks, and speed lines. Like, it does not look like a video game. It looks like an animated show, right?
Mhm.
And I said, wow, that looks really cool. But the trailer was all flash. Here's a bunch of characters. Here's a bunch of environments. It looks like it's in Tokyo kind of stuff. There's some cyber elements to it. And then I went and did some research afterwards. And I'm like, this game comes from the Genshin Impact devs. And it's an action RPG. And ding, ding, ding. I'm all about that because what I love about Genshin Impact so much is obviously the characters in the world. It looks beautiful. This looks better. This looks like it's built next gen all the way.
Mhm.
And then the reason that I didn't get into Honkai Star Rail was it was turn-based. And I'm starting to kind of move away from turn-based. Like my RPG preferences are starting to get more action, more instant satisfaction kind of thing. That's why I love what they're doing with Final Fantasy these days. So this is more like action combat oriented. And I don't know a lot about the story. I don't know a lot about the background, but the visuals absolutely pop. And this thing is an action RPG from the studio that brings Genshin Impact, which has been one of my favorite games over the last several years. So if you go to the website, if you go to zenless.hoyoverse.com, it looks just like a straight up anime manga dream. I'm very excited to learn more about this. I don't know that this is going to be the big game that I want it to be, but damn, did it put up a nice sizzle in that trailer. What did you think?
There's this the aesthetics are off the charts, right? And like you said, it is for the people who like anime, who like JRPGs and all that. It has the Hoyoverse style, right?
There's like a
to
bear
the
character
max.
wearing a hat. I like that.
Yes. So the way that they display the characters on their website and that kind of explain is they have them divided into factions, kind of like in, Harry Potter, where you have the different houses. So you have Faction Unknown, you have Victoria Housekeeping, and you have the Section 6, and they all have an emblem associated with them and a style. And then you have the characters that go along who look themed to that faction. And just that idea right there alone kind of tells you what they're going for a little bit. And I love that shit. Like
It
when
looks
you
so
have
good.
yeah, like, this character, this team style. And then do you mix characters in your party between different teams? Or do you get a bonus for having them all be like part of the same faction? Or is this just referring to when you create your character, what kind of quote unquote race or faction you're part of? I don't know, but I'm on board to find out. And I too have been gravitating toward the action, away from like the slow plotting turn based,
Yeah.
and going and actions won me over quite a bit in recent years. So this looks good. It's in its infancy, you could tell, as
Yeah.
far as like what they're sharing. And who knows? I mean, it could all just be flash, but typically the gameplay is pretty good when it comes to this dev as well. So let's see what they have to say, what they have to do
Yeah.
when it comes game time.
I will
want a demo.
say it's something that I've been, not to go a little bit on a Genshin tangent, but like something that I think that these guys get so right is they put so much care into the design and personality behind their characters. A game like Fortnite, which is also a free-to-play game, to me that game kind of lives by their licensed property. Like I never get into any of the original Fortnite characters. I don't want to play as any of them.
Yeah.
But in Genshin Impact, when you pull a new character and the design and their special attacks and their personality that comes through in their one-liners and stuff, they really do a good job of making you click with these original characters. And there's so many of them. And like you said, you look through the roster of these characters on the website, and there's like wolf people, there's bear people, there's like robots with six shooters. There's this pirate-looking chick with a giant robot hammer. It's just like you can see
Love
the
it.
style and the character in each one of them is just like crafted so well. I'm excited about this. I think it looks really good, but like you said,
too.
it's in its infancy. We'll be probably
this is
waiting
single
a while.
player, or we don't know what's
I don't think we
happening
know yet.
here
I don't
as
think we
far
know
as
yet.
okay, great, because it looked like it could be anything. Like who knows? We
Exactly.
have no idea.
All right, let's hear your last pick here.
So wrapping it up, and I know this is kind of weird, I've been on a Sonic kick. So Sonic reveals Sonic X Shadow, so cross Shadow, whatever. Sonic and Shadow Generations. So I had to go into research mode to figure out what the hell's going on here, because I'm not an aficionado when it comes to the long, varied kinds of games that are in Sonic. Most of the time I've stuck with 2D. I haven't really been in 3D very much. I recently played the mobile 3D game. I want to say it's Sonic Heroes. I don't know. There's so many weird.
There's a lot
one
of
line.
them, yeah.
There's a lot of games here. So I wanted to read this because it's gonna clear something up. They unveiled the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog platformer, delivering blistering platforming challenges at speeds only Sonic and Shadow can deliver. It's a greatest hits playlist of iconic 2D and 3D Sonic levels from Sonic Generations, both remastered and expanded for PlayStation 5 and 4. And Sonic X Shadow Generations also introduces all new standalone campaign for Shadow the Hedgehog, making this the definitive blend of classic, modern, and classic Sonic, modern Sonic, and Shadow gameplay. So even in the explanation, there's a lot going on here. They basically say, we have Sonic, it's 2D, it's 3D, we know this, and they found the secret sauce now where they're just like, the best of what we've done, remastered, and put together in a greatest hits package. And this was the same for Sonic Mania, and it's a winning formula for me, because if I'm gonna play Sonic, because I'm not the hugest fan, I want it to be good. So they're like, let's just do that. What this game actually is, even after reading that, because I haven't played the original like Sonic Generations, like I'm thinking, wait, is it Sonic Adventure? I'm like, do I know what Sonic Adventure is? Like, what Sonic Colors? This isn't like that, is it? Like, there's too much for someone like me as a casual fan to understand. So from a high level perspective, I watched the trailer and I said, this looks cool. And that's why it got me excited. It was unexpected that they were going to do this again. What did you think about that? Are you a Sonic fan?
Well, it's hard to say if you're a Sonic fan, right? Because there's been a lot of good and there's been a lot of trash. I will say I'm glad that this is not Sonic Frontiers 2, because that is one of the worst fucking games. Hold on.
There we go. Bringing out the big guns.
Sonic Frontiers was a fucking abomination. It was an absolute snorefest. Whoever thought the idea of taking Sonic and putting him in this empty, big-ass open world filled with robots and like a mix of robot and ancient tech like Breath of the Wild, it was just mind-numbingly bad. I don't know who that game was for, but it was terrible. It was absolute dog shit. Now, that being said, I played the original Sonic Generations. It's on PS Plus, so I've played a little bit of it, and it is kind of what you said. It's like here's a little bit of the best of both. You've got 3D Sonic and 2D Sonic, and they meet together, and they're working together, and like some of the levels are 2D. Going side-scrolling with your little chubby short Sonic that you remember from the Sega Genesis days.
Love it.
And some of the levels are more modern 3D Sonic, Sonic Adventure is not exactly modern, but it's the 3D Sonic stuff. It was a lot of fun. It was good. A little unpolished because I think it was a PS3 game, maybe PS4 early generation. So it was a little rough around the edges, but this is going to be a remaster. And they're putting a lot of care into what Sonic the Hedgehog is these days, stoked by the success of the movie franchise. So I think this looks great. I think this looks fantastic. I would have loved to play the last Sonic game, the 2D 4-player game. I never got my hands on that one. It's more like the Super Mario Adventure kind of stuff where you can have 4 players all at once. I thought that looked really fun. But Sonic is a huge mixed bag. Yeah. Sonic can be really great, and it can be just absolutely abhorrent. And I hope that this is a good remaster. The Shadow stuff, I don't know. I don't know anything about that character. I don't know if that gameplay looked that fun, the shadow stuff. To me, I'm more drawn to the 2D Sonic stuff, and I think that looks fantastic.
You know what's weird about Sonic? Like, what other franchise or character do you know that's allowed to fail this much? Like,
For real.
Sonic 4. Like, when you look at, like, unfortunate news, Toys for Bob, who had recently done the latest Crash 4 game, which was, by all accounts, excellent, has massive layoffs and are in trouble. I can't remember if they were disbanded completely. I don't think they were. But you have Halo, you have Crash and Spyro, you have all these different things. Like, once you have a few bad games, once things don't sell, you have some executive somewhere saying, pull the plug, we're done with this, no more
put it in the fridge.
Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, like, we're gonna forget about it for like 2 decades. But Sonic will not die. He's invincible. Because he could have like 2, mediocre game, bad game, good game, mediocre game, good game, bad, trash. And it's just like, and they keep making them.
And they're
Who
also
else gets
different.
that leeway?
They're also different too. There was a game where he was a fucking werewolf. Like,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
So I don't know. You're right. He's a very unique character who gets all the chances and all the lives in the world. But let's hope this is a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Last game we want to talk about here. This is a game where the developer recently did an interview and said that they've spent a lot of time and care making sure that the ass of the lead character looks great for players, because you're going to be looking at her ass for a lot. I'm talking, of course, about Stellar Blade.
They opened with this, did they not?
Yes,
I'm pretty
they
sure
did.
They opened with this game.
This is a game that I've kind of been watching for a while because the character looks cool, the environment looks cool, but I didn't really know much about what the gameplay was. It was like, here's a lot of really cool looking cutscenes. This chick is kind of Bayonetta-esque, where she's got a bodysuit and she's got a sword that she's spinning and flipping over all these big monsters and stuff. I was really impressed with the gameplay of this. I was watching this alongside my son, and he says to me, he's like, this looks like Final Fantasy. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. And then I'm watching it, and they're kind of explaining like the open world, and you meet all these characters and go on all these side quests, and then you can level up your weapons and your arm. And I'm like, oh my God, it is. Like, it really is. This feels a lot like Final Fantasy 16 or the new Final Fantasy 7 stuff, but in this post-apocalyptic Earth that is like overrun with technology and monsters. And the more I kind of realize that, my 9-year-old son apparently knows more about video games than I do, I really started to click with this. And I'm like, I can see what kind of game this is, and it looks freaking awesome.
Yes.
I am very excited about this. It looks incredible. The design. I like the idea of being able to customize her with new outfits and new weapons and go on all these missions. It's very Neo Tokyo cyberpunk looking kind of shit. Very anime inspired again. What did you think of Stellar Blade?
So my first thought was negative, because I was like, okay, this is just yet another, JRPG, action JRPG. And it's going to be generic. So that was my first initial thing. I was like, okay, let's create, the typical, Bayonetta-esque character, and we're going to just be in a post-apocalyptic, weird, just all these dials were being turned up, right? Let's check all the boxes. And then by the end of what they showed, I had the complete opposite reaction, because if you notice, the character models and the style, the art design of what's going on here is next level.
Yeah.
It was some of the most interesting NPCs and enemy design, and I started to appreciate it even in the few minutes that they were showing it more and more. It looked visually impressive. And then the thing about the combat is I wanted to see more of it, because until they showed how, the weapons were meeting the enemies, how the character was moving around, it didn't seem like it was going to be that impressive. But when you closely watch, it has that what I keep talking about every episode is that attention to detail in the animations and how cool it looks, how solid everything interacts with the enemy and the character, and it feels like everything's going to have an impact. And I thought that was pretty fantastic. By the end, I was blown away and I was ready to see more. This is another game that's coming out very quickly. I think it's in April. So I'm blown away by what I saw already. I think the missing element would be, does it forge its own path in the story department and tone?
Right.
Or is it going to have that generic story and tone?
Yeah.
It could not. But I think that's what's really going to set it apart, is if it makes its own way, because I'm hoping it gets away from anything that's too generic.
You know, it's been a huge showcase. You are the guy that I've been trying to pull on a thread to get over to the PlayStation side for a long time. We talk about this all the time. Dude, Where are you at after this?
So when I visited my buddy in Washington State, he had his PS5 and was just showing it off. Everything from just, booting it up and the UI experience and how everything looked with his matching great Sony television and the recent news of all the changes with Xbox. I think that loyalty has gotten me stagnant in picking my platform. More than I had admitted in the past, because what's really keeping me, like what would change so much in what I play? I'm still sad, because after I watch all of this state of play and I think about how much it would cost me to play all these games, I'm gonna have to pay full price, $60-$70 for these things. It's not like the Xbox ecosystem where I know that everything's shown in their most recent direct. I'm going to be able to play half of it on Game Pass. And that hurts. I don't have the money anymore, the disposable income anymore to be able to do that. And I don't know how to reconcile that, because if I made the decision to jump ship and go with a PS5 tomorrow, which I could, I don't know how much I can maintain that, just from my financial situation. So it's rough. Mm-hmm. I am leaning toward getting the next iteration, or whatever SKU of the PS5. It's too enticing. There's too much to play. But the only question now is, can I afford it?
That's just, what? You are not wrong. It is a very expensive proposition, no doubt about it. But they do their best to try to justify those prices with these outstanding games. Well, we're going to talk about the state of play focused on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in just a second. But before we get to that, I want to take a moment to talk about Megadads Plus. We want to acknowledge the folks over at Megadads Plus who support us in that community. It's our Megadads tip jar, right? It is what allows us to continue to cover and create content. It's as little as $1 a month. You just go to patreon.com/Megadads, and for as little as $1 a month, you can support what we do here at Megadads. But you don't have to spend a single dollar to be part of the Plus community. There is a free tier, and we're going to thank everybody in that free tier for a moment. We're going to thank the Coconut Wizard, AV Cohen, One Track Gamers, John Layola, Michael Kwan, Nima, Eric Wood, Brian Scott, and this is the important part, anybody can be a member of this community, because in our free tier community is the American Sex Podcast. I'm not making that up.
You're telling me that we have support in our free tier on Patreon.
Yes.
From the American Sex Podcast?
The American Sex Podcast follows us.
We made it.
In Megadads Plus.
Arrived.
I don't know what or who the American Sex Podcast is, but we're glad.
You've not heard? Are you kidding me?
Are you a subscriber to the American Sex Podcast?
I think I've been a long-time supporter from the beginning. Well, it used to be called the Sex Podcast, but we got too many weirdos
branched
in the
out,
fan group. Yeah.
Oh, well, we want to just thank everybody who's a part of that community, and as well as our paid supporters, the Nintendo Dads podcast, Justin Masson, the Bafo Yucks Dudes, David Snyder, Luke Porter, Andy Penzick, Timothy Alf, Jesse Waldeck, Dave Soto, the Snack Network, Brandon Wilson, Banger McBanger, the third Banger, son of Banger of the House of the Bangers.
Nice.
Estuardo Zenteno, Mike Salvino, John DiFrancesco, Petey McD, Brent, Emily Smith, Spokes, and Luke Lore of XEP. We don't thank you guys nearly enough, and we're going to try to do that just a little bit more. Thank you all so much. And if you want to support us either in the paid community or the free community, like the American Sex Podcast, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/megadads. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Like all of these supporters, you know what's weird about our supporters? They're all really cool people.
Yeah.
Like all of the people who are part of the community, who are having conversations with us in the Megadads Discord, people who are on Patreon supporting us. These are like the coolest people. And when I get to talk to them, when I get to see what they're creating or what they're doing or what their opinions are, it's amazing. Like the Nintendo Dads, like they have the most out there opinions about everything. Like you can't find opinions like that anywhere else, and they're just so cool. So thank you so much for supporting us. We really appreciate it. At night when I lay my head down to sleep, I think about all of you, fully clothed, but don't make it weird.
Fully?
Adam, you're gonna call me out like that?
All right, let's talk about Final Fantasy, because there was a second state of play that followed that massive info dump of all those games, and it focused exclusively on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is just around the corner. This was 11 minutes of gameplay, followed by a drop of a Final Fantasy demo. I mean, PlayStation's just dumping demos on us left and right. This is a very in-depth look at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The story takes place, if you are a fan of OG Final Fantasy VII, this takes place as soon as you leave Midgar, and it takes you all the way up until something really significant happens in the storyline at the Shrine of the Ancients, the capital of the Ancients. So there's a lot to be had there, and just like the first game, they're going to expand on it, right? Everything's going to be bigger and longer. And boy, oh boy, are there a lot of mini games in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Of course, you're going to be going to the Golden Saucer, and you're going to be doing things like snowboarding, chocobo racing. There's this really cool battle system. There's like a fighting game in there where you have really nice high-res versions of the old player models from the PS1.
Oh my God.
Was that not the coolest thing ever?
So I have to get a confession out. As many of you know, I am playing Final Fantasy VII Remake R. Like I am playing that now because I was waiting for it to come to Xbox. Never did. Finally got it on PC, and I'm blown away by it, right? So I'm behind, and people even who have finished the first game, a lot of people are like, I'm not watching this. The game's coming out soon. And I can't watch this video that's going to give away too much, maybe a potential spoiler, all of this. But it was giving away the house. And when it came to like what you're going to be experiencing, it was like, look at all this cool stuff, the traversal, mini games. So I, knowing that we were going to talk about this, let myself watch 12 seconds of this, and I skipped through too. I was like, here's 4 seconds, here's 4 seconds, here's 4 seconds, and I saw the old school model thing, and I'm like, I'm not seeing this right. Like I must have skipped and saw an ad or something. What a genius idea to. I mean, it's old and new. It's the nostalgia. It's the way that they've gone back, and I'm blown away by them, even their approach of saying, because I mean, was it not like that in the original Final Fantasy VII, where it's like you got to this point and you spent a lot of time playing that stuff.
Yep.
A lot of this stuff was really cool, and it's like, you know what? We're gonna give you this sandbox, this playground, these options of just having fun. Let's just have them have fun.
I can't even imagine how big and vast the Golden Saucer is going to be now. Like what they did with Midgar and blowing that up. And Golden Saucer, like you said, was all about spending time and spending money, playing games, trying to unlock new weapons and relics and materia and stuff. They're going to blow that shit up. That arcade is going to be insane. So excited.
Oh, it looks visually, I'm surprised that we're here. That's what I keep looking at. Again, it's hard to impress me, but they're pushing boundaries from a visual perspective. And I don't know if it's just me, but the vibe I'm getting, and again, I haven't played through these new remakes. The camaraderie that you get between these characters that we all love is just, I feel like it's a little family, like it's a little tight-knit like thing, and we're gonna see more members of this family now and come together across all kinds of fun situations. I'm freaking out.
It's gonna be good. There's a demo available now. I was not going to play this, but I did download it in case Elliot wanted to, and he fired it up and he played. I don't know. He played a good section of it, right? A good chunk of it. I don't know if he's going to go back to it because in my mind, I'm like, this game's right around the corner and I'm going to get it on day one. Like I have to get this game on day one. So it's good. It's great. It's a continuation. I'm glad that you're playing through Remake because that's such an outstanding game. And this looks to be really continuing it. I will be stunned if this is not my game of the year because it just takes this property and this direction and just it's blowing it out of the water. Looks really good. Really, really good. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed our in-depth talk about the State of Play duo gang bang you with some State of Play back to back. It is time for the Caboose, where we bring you a recommendation of something that we enjoy outside of the world of gaming that we think that you might also like to partake in. I'll go first. In this time of political turmoil, I'm a political junkie right now.
No.
Always.
Really?
And the world is very awful. And there are lots of
Yeah.
things happening to make everything feel awful. And over the last several years, I've sang this podcast's praises because it takes the shit storm that is our political atmosphere and it lightens it up and it allows you to laugh at it as you continue to doom spiral towards the next election season. That's Pod Save America. This is my favorite podcast. I listen to this. It's 3 times a week. And it is former Obama speechwriters and aides, and they are analyzing the world of politics, and they just absolutely railroad and roast the craziness coming out of Trump camp, right? And it is really good political insight. Like these guys really know their shit because they worked in the White House for several years, but it also takes just the gnarly reality that we live in. And like, I can't even watch the news anymore because it's so depressing. There's so much awful stuff happening, but they laugh about it. They joke about it. They're like-minded and like-aged people to me. So like their personality jives with mine, and I can listen to what's happening in the world while also laughing at it and not feeling like we're all doomed no matter what. So I really like this podcast a lot. If you are a political junkie like I am, you got to put it on your playlist. It's Pod Save America. Antonio,
I am sold. Good job, Adam.
you got to listen. I think you would like it. What's in your caboose, my friend?
So I had recently gotten COVID for the first time, and one of the problems with what was going on is I was debilitated. Like I couldn't really move around. I was very sore and body aches and things, and I didn't have the mental capacity to play games. So I really got into something. I was like, let me watch something kind of meaty. So I went into Netflix and found Cyberpunk Edge Runners. So Cyberpunk originally came out in 2020 and bombed, right? So it was like, this is the undercooked version of the game, right? And then it came back later with a revive and 2.0 and the DLC, Phantom Liberty, etc. So this came out years later on September of 22. So others may have already gone in and experienced it, but this anime series on Netflix is credited with kind of reinvigorating the zeitgeist around the game and kind of fleshing out the world, etc. The cool thing about Cyberpunk Edgerunners, if you didn't catch it the first time around, go ahead and take a look now. It is anime, flashy, bombastic. It's great. But it also intertwines the concepts of the video game world so well. A lot of times you'll have things based on games that don't really feel like it was made by somebody who played the game.
Yeah.
But when I watched this, it absolutely must have been created by someone that understood the lore and history of this made-up world, this alternate reality future that they have going on here, inside and out. Everything from the language and diction of the characters to the technology and how it is used, the layout of the city in the game. I recognized areas in the anime from playing the game, and it was fully realized. And even the way that the people talk and the weaponry being utilized and the skills that you use from the game, it was just mind-blowing how they were able to do that. But on top of all that, the story that's being told was interesting and heart-wrenching and had twists and it was great. I think it's a 10-part series.
Oh wow, that's quite a bit.
Yeah. 15-minute episodes, I believe, 15-20 minutes, and it takes you on a journey of these characters, and you stick with them from the humble beginnings to the tragic, crazy ends, and it delivers on action, emotion, and it's really good. Overall, I would give it like a 3.5 out of 5, maybe a 4. Like it's a really good sit down to watch something when you want to turn your brain off. If you're familiar with Cyberpunk at all, the game, you kind of have to watch this as an accompanying side along. It fleshes everything out. They complement each other so well.
Is there any Keanu Reeves in it?
No Keanu Reeves, but there are characters that you see from the game kind of like popping up in here. So it's kind of, I didn't look into this about when it's happening compared to the other game. I want to say it's just before you would take the mantle of V in the actual game. So it's definitely in that time frame though, because you see things and it gives some context. It's pretty cool.
Cyberpunk Edgerunners.
Cyberpunk Edgerunners on Netflix. Yeah, check it out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of Mega Dads Live. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us some comments. What did you think of the state of play? Do you miss Mabel? Mabel has been on extended vacation.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. She found love. Mabel found love and ran away with her 2 lovers, and they have a throuple or whatever they call it, and they are living in Papua New Guinea. And she is just having the raunchiest back-ass sex every morning, noon, and night, eating papaya. Congratulations, Mabel. We'll miss you.
All I know is somebody's got to dust around here, because with Mabel being gone, it's
all falling apart.
It's all falling apart. Mabel, if you're watching this, please come home. We miss you. We'll see you guys next Friday for an all-new episode of Mega Dads Live.